Okay, welcome back everybody. So I've just come back to record the breakdown of this track. We're going to go through each of the channels, each of the instruments, and some of the effects and processing. So last time I showed you guys the clip of the full track, so you guys got to hear that. And now we're going to come back and walk through this. I also changed the theme. I felt like that last theme was probably a bit hard on the eyes, so just going to keep it simple here. So yeah, we'll walk through these samples. We'll kind of show you a little bit of kind of the method here, and yeah, we'll kind of go each pattern by each pattern. So we'll start with pattern 1, which is the bass here, which we use VST Foscion, which is a very good 303 bass. So for people that are into hard house, you will notice that 303 basses are used a lot. So I'll play that a little bit so you can kind of hear the sound. And then what I do too is I kind of tweak the cutoff as well, which can kind of manipulate the sound. So that's a neat feature. So definitely Foscion's a very neat bassline synthesizer. If you don't want to get this, you can also just use the what I have used in the past is the transistor bass in FL Studio. So it's this little guy here. Just do insert. And then it's called transistor bass. I should be able to find it here in a sec. Yeah, there it is. And this is also very useful. You can do 303 acid bass lines and stuff like that in there. So definitely worth checking out. So yeah, that's how we make the bass. And then we'll move on to the next pattern here. This is the motif at the end of the bass. So this is where we kind of go up a third note. So we go up here, and we have this at the end of each bar. So this is what we use for same bass line, same bass pattern. So we're just doing the end of the four bar roll. Then this is our kicks. So a little bit. So for this, I use two different kicks. One, I cut the lows. The other, I cut the highs. And then what I do is I tweak the EQing in both to make sure to account for phasing, things like that. And then like I said, I'll walk through the mixer channels after. I'm going to show you guys what I've been doing, but. So I have two kicks here. So this is our low kick, and that coming through there, and then this is our high kick, and then when you play them both together, you get a nice full sound. I like doing this. It's not to everyone's taste, but I like to do this to kind of have more control. Some people even have like 3 or 4 kicks layered, and they'll even break it into more like separate bands. One for lows, one for mids, one for high mids, one for highs, etc. So that's what I do with the kicks there, and as you can hear, it's a really snappy, punchy, heavy kick. When making an NRG, hard house, that kind of thing, you like a hard hitting heavy kick. The thing about hard house, and it's definitely a genre where you want to have a really hard kick. The kick is kind of the leader of the track. The kick is kind of the driver of it, so you want a decent kick, and you want to make sure that it's a heavy hitting kick that sits almost on top, sits at the top of the mix, if that makes sense. This is just what we use for little kick rolls. So this I do at the end of each 4-bar loop. It just kind of brings it nicely into the next one. You hear it a lot in hard house, hard dance tracks, trance, all that kind of genres. You'll hear these little kick tricks at the end there, little motifs. Then claps. This is our clap, which... another thing with hard house, NRG, kind of hard techno, you really want a snappy clap that really brings out like a really nice crisp high end. Some people may choose to layer their claps, which is another thing you can do. But this clap is a really nice, snappy, raspy clap. That's my advice too, is definitely when you're picking your samples to make a track, use a nice really snappy clap as well. It definitely gives a nice sound to it. And then we have the side-length off bass here, which is a Moog synth, a Moog bass. So definitely recommend using kind of a nice Moog bass, or if you just want to use samples, a nice kind of Moog sounding saw kind of square soft sample like that, which just kind of gives a nice little on the offbeat there, gives a nice little extra bit to the track there. Definitely recommend using that. And then this is our end of the motif as well. So our motif that's at the end of the 4 bars. Kind of brings you into the next part. Then I really enjoy these are the one shots. So in a hard house energy track, you tend to hear a lot of like vocal shots or little perk shots, toms, stuff that kind of adds to the percussion of the track, like the drums and stuff like that. These vocal one shots, textbook. Yeah, I mean you hear that, it's textbook. Then these little bass lines, these little bass lines. I use these little samples here. Little sawtooth samples are quite nice, and these just kind of sit in behind the drums. Give some depth to the drums here. So yeah, you can listen to that. It's got nice. And then what I do is I tend to layer these, so you'll see here. So this is our these are the other offbeat basses. This is our donk bass, which is a I mean, you do love a good donk. I do love using donks on my tracks because it's very it's once again kind of very classic of the genre. I was using the offbeat donks as well. Yeah, I'm sure what that is. So this is our snare roll. I'll play you the sample. I'll play you the loop here. So the snare roll, it's once again another real textbook sound that you hear in a lot of hard house, hard techno tracks, where it's kind of basically rolling you into the next bar, usually to build up, like you're incorporating like a lead or a bass or something else is coming in usually after this. I find it it's good to kind of keep it. I really find it kind of attention grabbing, and it gets the listener into the next part, which is. It's all about the build-up, with these NRG tracks. Like you just kind of, from the beginning, it's all about the build-up. Not sure if this is supposed to be something. So this is what we use for our main lead here. This is the side length. So this is where we use our little kind of funky pitch bendy main lead that we have in this track. So this is kind of the. One lead. Sounds a little bit like a virus lead, which you hear a lot of these tracks as well. And I definitely like having fun playing with the cutoff and doing like little high pass filter sweeps on them. Sound pretty fun when you're mucking about with that. 17. This is the other one. This is the other. This is a Spire VST. Definitely, like I said, if you're taking notes, Spire VST, side length VST. Definitely two VSTs that are your friend when it comes to making this kind of genre of music. Same if you're doing like other kinds of trance and techno and stuff, like the lead patches and stuff. And then that's definitely what I recommend as well. And the Daniel Parkinson sample packs, you may have seen them as well if you've watched Random But Raw videos as well. He uses the I believe it's called Daniel Parkinson Future Trance Essentials. And they come with a bank for Spire as well, which is really, really good. So definitely if you're taking notes, check those out. Definitely worth it. Play this. And then Pat. So this is the part of the track that was so much fun working with. I absolutely loved this guitar, like distorted guitar riff that you hear in it, which it definitely kind of gives you a little bit of that tidy tracks vibe, and I really, really enjoyed it. I just happened to stumble across it accidentally when working in Massive X. But take a listen to this. So that is I really do enjoy that one, and then something up with the arrange the pattern viewer here. Sorry about this. So this is just what we use for our little build up. Once again, so we're using those same patches, side length. So I'll play that for you. That's just the motif at the end there. This is our side length as well. These are more percussion samples, which are great. for using in your drums as well, to give them a bit more depth, a bit more. And then this is another massive X. So what I did was just give a bit of idea. So with the guitar sample, I'll just show you a distorted guitar sample. I was quite disappointed. There wasn't a lot coming through on the low end, and despite the amount of processing I tried to do with it, it was hard to get anything coming through clear enough. So definitely, definitely what I wanted to do was have something coming through on the low end to give it more body. And so this little like distorted square patch I found, so take a listen. Yeah, so, and then this is more of the build up as well that we use. So this is the also we use this for the build up too. And then here is our string patch, our kind of pads rather than strings, I meant to say. So these are the pads. Definitely, this is definitely a signature part of these tidy tracks. These kind of hard house energy style tracks is these build up pads. So I'll play this. And I definitely have a lot of fun playing around with the effects on the filters, playing around with the automation and kind of as you're building the track up, increasing that filter on the low pass and starting to bring more of those higher frequencies through. So these pads are a lot of fun to work with, and that's another pad that didn't end up getting used. This is just the 8-bar loop that we use for the drop. Just this guitar's about to come on. And then here we have the sub bass. So of course you need to have the sub following along with those distorted square sawtooth bass lines I was showing you earlier. Now you'll probably only pick that up if you're listening through headphones because it's just the sub. And then this is another little line I had going, which was another kind of high pitched percussive sound. And then here, go back here. Then we have these offbeat, more kind of word samples, word cuts. And then this was something that didn't end up getting used. And then I think that's the end of our patterns. Yeah, I think we've reached the end of the line there. So we'll get into our arranger. So I'll show you guys the arranger. So a lot of these, so as you'll probably see in other tutorials, once again, shout out to Random But Raw for these. These loops, there's a lot of loop usage. Now I know people can be like snobby about it, but I think loops, if they're used properly, can really give good depth to track. And this is, these are some of the loops we use. So I'll just kind of show you, isolate these loops, and you can have a listen. So that just kind of gives you an idea of the loops, and I definitely recommend Vengeance, the original Vengeance samples, definitely worth using. Vengeance Club Sounds 1, 2 kind of thing. Tidy sample packs as well, and then if you have time, check out Digital Toolbox, which is a great resource for particularly for hard dance music, and they have some great samples on there. Paul King samples are worth checking out. Once again, a shout out to Random But Raw for mentioning those. So that's kind of the loop usage, which it's a case of just finding the sound that you like, and not necessarily and just making sure, like, when you're layering loops, my best advice is, if anybody's doing this, really check your EQs. Really make sure that you haven't got too much phasing going on. Make sure that you've got, you haven't got too much crowding in a single frequency, that kind of thing. Definitely my advice. So let me unmute all these. And then we've kind of covered the rest of that stuff in the patterns. And then what I'll do is show you. So we just have usual crash, reverse crash, these crash samples. Every sort of every 8 bars I have a crash sample, which is pretty typical of the genre as well. I have a little atmosphere, kind of set the scene, which is good too. A reverse sweep, which kind of builds you in. Sweep, and then once again we kind of use a tonal riser here, which I do enjoy. These tonal risers, they're good fun for really building. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. So yeah, that's kind of how I kind of build this track into the main drop here at bar 129. And then, what I will last, before I get onto my mixing, we'll talk quickly about the effects. It's definitely, as you're hearing a lot of tidy, hard house tracks, filter sweeps. So I'll just isolate these. So, you get the nice little high pass sweeps on those. They sound really, really nice. And then, that's so I use that. And then there's also this build up here on the pads. So you can hear that as well. Kind of slowly getting the build up. And then what I really liked doing in terms of my effects, probably my favorite use of automation in this track, is this little area here where we kind of use the filter sweep on this guitar riff, and I'll show you what I mean here. So this kind of gives you an idea of the sort of the sort of build up features that I do as well. Really gets people ready, like, oh yeah, what's this coming in here? This sounds wild. And then this bit here. I have a little high pass on the main master channel as well on the whole track. Do really like using that. It just really builds it up nicely. Yeah, so I think we've covered everything in terms of effects. A lot of these are just on-off switches, aren't super interesting. I think we'll delve straight into the mixing. So I will say, take this mixing mix down with a pinch of salt. Definitely, I've still got a lot to learn in terms of mixing, but I'm getting the hang of it. So here we have our mid lead here. So what we'll do is we'll just play this section of the track, and we'll just isolate each mixer channel here. That's our main lead there. Not sure why it's still playing, but anyways, that's our main lead there. And then we have, so this main lead here has a little bit coming through on the highs there. I don't know why it's showing as playing, because it's not playing through here, so I do apologise. I'm not sure it's a glitch. But I will say, yes, this has been basically quite simply EQing, cutting of the lows, a little bit of reverb, and then our filter, which we use to kind of for automation purposes, and then I use Kickstart for sidechain. This Kickstart, all it is a sidechain VST. I use it for pretty much all music that I produce. It's just a handy feature. I used to just do like manual with peak controller and such, but this is easier. So yeah, then the fun part, the distorted guitar, which is definitely my favourite part of this track. Yeah, once again, a little bit of light EQ, just cutting the bass as well, doing some multi-band compression. Mostly just kind of cutting off the lows, doing some multi-band compression on the guitar there. Yeah, so we cut a bit of the lows, and then we don't have much coming through on the mids, and then the highs we do have a little bit coming through there, and that just kind of gives it a nice warmer, richer sound. Try to bring a bit more extra in on the lows. Then we have our filter as well, which is the same thing as others ones, just automated. Once again, I mean, you'll see a common theme here: a little bit of light EQing, a little bit of filtering on this lead as well. Then we have our 303 bass. Same thing, a little bit of blood overdrive. I wanted to bring a bit extra warmth to it. Same with the EQ. Just wanted to bring through those high mids, the low mids that are coming through there on the 303 bass. Really kind of brings it out nicely on that one. Then our loops, they don't really need a lot of work. It's just a case of making sure you haven't got too many clashing frequencies. So cutting the lows off on these. And then, this is our low kick, which as I was describing earlier. So once again, the low kick doesn't really need much in the way of work, just a case of cutting it off. And then when you're EQing the high kick, which we'll get to in a minute, you'll notice the frequencies don't really clash because you don't want them. You don't want the phasing. Claps once again, bit of bringing up in the low end, the low mids. Bringing a bit of that up. Then we have multi-band compression as well on the claps, which I find really brings it out. Listen to that. And we'll listen to the low kick, because I didn't show you that. Here's our offbeat bass, which is mostly just like I said, keep it cutting the lows because we have the sub coming in anyways on the lows, so we want to be careful. And then basically just doing mostly cuts around the mids and the highs because you just don't want too much high end coming through on that. And then our last loop, which will play that as well. And then we have our Vox vocal cuts, which didn't need a lot of work really. I just wanted to add some reverb to kind of beef it up and a bit of delay as well. But I didn't have to do much work on that. A little bit of raising in the mids and the highs. I don't believe we use this one. And then this is another offbeat bass, which I believe might be our donk, which is coming through there. So we have that's the same thing as well, cutting the lows. See a common theme pattern here, can't you? You can see a common theme emerging here. This is one of our bass lines which we've got coming through here. Once again, just keeping those lows out of trouble. And then, not much work. A little bit of multi-band compression. But I didn't want to add too many wave effects. Then we have our kickstart as well. The loop. And we have our hats. Well, hats very simple. I just completely cut anything below 200 hertz, get rid of it, don't need it in there. If you do, some people like to have lower hats in there, but that's absolutely fine, I feel, as it is. And we have our perks, which I don't really have to do anything. It's just the usual cutting of the lows, nothing exciting. And then we have crash. Sorry, let me get to our crash first, not get too ahead of ourselves. Crash, same thing. Brought in the highs, cut the lows, a bit of light reverb, a little bit of light delay, especially I do like my quarter note delays on the crashes as well. Then we have our mid kick. So we have our mids and highs coming through on that one, which gives it a little bit of extra, gives it the warmth that you're looking for. And then when you play this, I'll show you the kicks together. See, the two sound really nice together. Bass line. Once again, don't want the lows because we've got the sub coming in specifically for that. some light multi-band compression to bring out those mids and those highs, but once again we don't want to overdo it. Same with these as well. Yeah, perk as well coming through there. Yeah, we want to raise it around the 250, 300 mark, but the perks, you really want to bring out those mids so they sit nicely with the rest of the drums. Excuse me. And then this is the second guitar riff, which is more of the low distorted square. Let's get some light multi-band compression on there. My usual filter. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, yeah, I'm half expecting some comments about my mixing style, because it is very, very, very primitive. I've got a lot of way to go on that. A lot of the time I just yeah, I'm much more focused in the composition. But I think for what I'm working with, I think it's sounding okay. I think it's sounding good. So I'll play that little bar there for you with everything on. Yeah, and that's not a bar, ignore what I said, that's an 8-bar loop. And then I'll show you my master, which is, yeah, my master's pretty light, so we cut off the lows, cut off the highs, the extreme highs, extreme lows. We've got that, yeah, it's just in a case of just making sure it doesn't get too muddy. Then, yeah, some vintage compression on it. And then we have our Maximus multiband mastering suite. Maximus definitely is your friend. I've noticed a lot of people using Maximus when they're working in FL Studio. It is a good compressor VST. Obviously, you have to treat it with respect, don't get too carried away, but generally it's pretty good. You know, if you want to, there are presets you can use, or you can make your own. In this case, I have some quite short compression here on the lows, mids, highs coming through here, and then yeah, we come out with a reasonable amount of it is a very compressed but you've got enough headroom there. You're not getting above zero. You're in the clear. And then this is just my high pass that I have on it, and then there's which we filtered in the build up there, and then I just have the Maximus, which is actually not being used. So yeah, so it's kind of a rundown of how Slayer was put together, a bit of breakdown of the patterns and such. Hopefully you found this useful. Do let me know in the comments. If you do have any questions, if you need me to explain anything more, if you have any criticism. Honestly, I'm not, as you can probably tell, I'm not a seasoned tutorial giver, so I'm just kind of running with it here. I'm better at making music than I am videos, I'll say that much. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like what you're seeing, subscribe. I'm going to try and upload more of these tutorial videos, you know, in the near future. Other tracks I've made, include some walkthroughs and such. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.